So with the 1JZ mounted in the chassis, gearbox mounts welded up, engine mounts welded up, it's time to turn our attention to the cab. Obviously without this, we've got nowhere to sit, nowhere to drive from, and it needs to be on the car. But, big issue. 3RZ is quite a short engine, and we've moved the 1JZ back further than where the start of the 3RZ was anyway. So we've got to cut out some area in the cab for the engine to go in. Now luckily, the engine's not as tall as what the 3RZ was, so we should be able to leave the top section, which is quite complicated to cut out because there's this layer, another layer coming from underneath, and the firewall all joining in to this part here. So it'd be good if we can just cut out through here, and that should give us plenty of room for the JZ to slide back, and hopefully we don't have to cut out too much that we've got to do a complete firewall, but at the same time wouldn't be the worst thing. So we've marked our center line. We've taken a rough measurement of the width of the JZ, which is about 230mm from the center to the side of the dump pipe. So we can then transfer that measurement onto the sides of here, cut it out. So we can do the same thing up into the tunnel, hopefully not cut too much of the tunnel out for the gearbox, but it is a big unit, so we may have to do that, make a whole new firewall. Well, the cab's on, so as you can see, there's not a whole lot left of it. We've gone ahead, we've cut out the tunnel because we want to go one-piece drive shaft, and to do that, it's actually going to come up higher than the floor in the rear section, so may as well fold up a piece of sheet that'll cover the whole thing, make it nice and new. Firewall's also cut out. Again, not much left of that. So we're just got to have a quick thought, see which way we want to go with brake booster, pedal box, or something along those lines. And then also how we want to do the firewall, whether we want to go flat, full firewall. So all we've done, we've used some tape to mark out where the tunnel's going to be, about 140mm wide. So we're going to go ahead, trim that off, and we've folded up a simple section to cover it, because it doesn't actually have to be much higher above the gearbox, so we couldn't do a nice roll or something fancy there because we just didn't have the room. So get this cut, get the new piece in, start welding it out.
Came up out the womb of man with everything that you demand. You could say I had a plan way before I had a fan. Some would probably call it luck, I just call it being blessed. You ain't never did the work, but you wanna be the best. Lately I could never stress, never better yet. Might have had a thing for you, she know I'm the better bet. I digress, I let it rest, go and get another check. I could always see my future, I bet they could never guess. Guessing they get it, cause look at me now and then look at yourself in the mirror. I know they doubted my thesis, but they doubted Jesus, and right now I'm making it clear. Clearly these people don't know where they go.
So this is what we came up with for the tunnel. Pretty simple, just basically square tunnel. Now, I was going to do something fancy with radiuses and things like that, but the distance here won't be that high, so we couldn't really fit a nice radius in there without getting really complicated, and I want to drive this car before I die. I'm just going to go through, mark the rough shape of the floor, get a rough cut in there, stick it in, tack it, then weld it out and get the cab off. Also going to have to cut a shifter hole and mount the handbrake. So let's get after it.
And if it don't make $1, then I couldn't make a real change, baby. Ay. Came up out the womb of giant. You were licking, you were client. Now you got so much to say. I was hurting, you was quiet. Glory is as glory does, so you know the story, love. Never thought he'd be a legend, he was always sure he was. You was always naysaying, some things never change. Spiritually, I never age, feeling like 11th grade. Junior me, proud of me, standing tall, towering, doing things I never do. If I was living cowardly, sushi roll, sour D, song 3, hour 3. I don't even go to sleep. Know the Lord empower me. Wake them up, they sound asleep. They gon' hear the sound of me. When the money getting up, truly ain't no down in me. Finally get it, cause look at me now and then looking at me from the picture. They probably thought that I need them or thought that I keep them. They lucky if I even miss them. Thinking that you got me figured, you figured it wrong, but it's okay, I truly forgive you. Lately I ain't got the time to be picking no fights when I'm trying to pick shit from the menu. Spilling pieces of a poet, don't you know it? I'm the real thing, baby. And if it don't make a dollar, then how could it make a real change, baby? Spilling pieces of a poet, don't you know it? I'm the real thing, baby.
Now, it's not very often you get to stand inside your car with your head poking out where your firewall's meant to be. But that's what we're doing. Putting this back together so it seals us from the engine and any potential fire that could come into the cab, hence the name firewall. So to do that, we need to cut this original seam weld off, so then this is nice and flush, and we can lay the new firewall over the top of this, but the plenum stays together. Now, we have to retain the plenum because we're still going to drive the car in the rain, and we need somewhere for the water to go. It's not directly into the cab, which is why this seam weld's going to come off, and all we're going to do is join bottom panel to the front panel and weld that up solid, which is not something they do in the factory because it just takes too much time, but we want that nice clean look, so we've got to go to the extra effort to do it and keep this all sealed up so we don't have to worry about water. Sometimes with builds like this, you have to think a bit ahead. Now the JZ sits about 50mm from the bottom of the plenum under here, which is enough to get coils, plugs out, rocker covers off, etc. But still a bit tight. So what we're going to do, cut up into here, around here, gain about 30-40mm of clearance, just enough, just to make it that little bit easier. Then we can also put a nice little radius on the firewall when we do it, make everything look a bit tidier. Well, we've got the plenum all sorted. We ended up just sectioning it about 30mm to bring up the center, so then we'll have more clearance and enough room to put our new firewall skin over the top of it. Now that that section's done, it's time to get the cab back on the car so we can start making our firewall, get everything separated, looking good, nice and smooth, and decide what we want to do with our pedals and our seat. Now for new players in the cab chassis world, you can actually use your engine crane to pick up your cab because once they're stripped out, they're very light. All you need to do is run ratchet straps to the bolt holes that go through to your mounts, pick it up from there, and then you can adjust the weights evenly so the cab sits nice and even, slide it over, drop it down. Happy days.